between Senator Bernie Sanders and Scott Bessent was not just a heated exchange. It was a mirror being held up to America, forcing us to ask ourselves, who really holds the power in this country? The people or a handful of billionaires?
Mr. Bessent, thanks very much for being in the office the other day. Mr. Bessent, the United States today has more income and wealth inequality than has ever existed in the history of our country. You got three people on top, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg, who are now worth almost $1 trillion. That is more than half of the bottom of our society, some 170 million people. Three people, more wealth than the bottom, 170 million. We have more concentration of ownership today than we have ever had. We have more concentration of ownership in the media, where a handful of billionaires like Musk, Bezos, Rupert Murdoch increasingly own the media and the information that the American people receive. We have a corrupt campaign finance system in which a small number of billionaires in both political parties make huge contributions into the presidential and congressional campaigns. When you have a small number of multi-billionaires who have enormous economic, media, and political power, would you agree with President Biden, who last night stated, and I quote, "An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights, and freedoms," end of quote. That's what President Biden said last night. I agree with him. Do you?
Senator Sanders, I enjoyed our visit.
You talk a little bit closer into the mic.
I enjoyed our visit, and I hope you got my follow-up materials that on the discussions, my previous writings on the tariffs and China. And look, the three billionaires who you listed, that all made the money themselves. Mr. Musk came to the country as an immigrant.
I understand that, but what I'm asking you is, when you have a handful of people like Musk, who will soon be part of the Trump administration, and others, when you have three people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, when these people have enormous influence over the media, when they spend huge amounts of money in both political parties to elect candidates, what Biden said last night is we're moving toward an oligarchy. I'm asking you that question. Do you think, forget how they made their money, do you think that when so few people have so much wealth and so much economic and political power that that is an oligarchic form of society?
Well, I would note that President Biden gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to two people who I think would qualify for his oligarchs. So
this is not a condemnation of any one individual. I'm just asking you, when so few people have so much wealth and power, do you think that that is an oligarchic form of society?
Senator, I think it depends on the ability to move up and down the income.
No, that's not really the answer. I mean, even if you had that mobility, no matter who those individuals might be. All right, but let me ask you another question. Right now in America, we have over 22 million workers who are making less than $15 an hour, and nearly 40 million people in our country earning less than $17 an hour. Shamefully, the federal minimum wage, despite the efforts of myself and other people here, have not been raised since 2009 and remains an unbelievable $7.25 an hour. Will you work with those of us who want to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage to take millions of Americans out of poverty?
Senator, I believe that the minimum wage is more of a statewide and regional issue.
So you don't think we should change the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Bessent, millions of working class Americans who are struggling to keep their heads above water are paying outrageously high interest rates on their credit cards. Over half the American people who take out new credit cards are being charged interest rates of over 24%. During his campaign, President-elect Trump promised that he was going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. I happen to think that that is a very good idea, and I will soon be introducing legislation to do just that. Will you, as if you are confirmed, be supportive of what President-elect Trump said and what I want to see happen, and that is to cap credit card interest rates at 10%?
Senator, I think we can both agree that many credit card companies have been bad actors throughout history, and I will get back to you once.
Now, very simple question. Trump said he wants to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. I agree with him. Will you be supportive of what Trump and I would like to do?
When President Trump takes office, and if I am confirmed, I will follow what President Trump wants to do.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Bernie laid it out clearly, and it's worth sitting with the numbers because they are staggering. 3 people in America, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, now control more wealth than the bottom 170 million people combined. That's more wealth than over half the entire nation. And this isn't just about money in the bank accounts of billionaires. Wealth translates into power. It buys political influence, it shapes public opinion, and it controls the media narratives that reach our homes every single day. When one billionaire owns a massive newspaper, another controls one of the largest social media platforms, and another dominates retail and cloud services, it raises the question, who gets to decide what truth looks like in America? Bernie used the word oligarchy, and it's not an exaggeration. An oligarchy isn't just about wealth. It's about wealth concentrated in the hands of so few that it distorts democracy itself. When billionaires bankroll political campaigns, when they pour unlimited money into super PACs, they aren't just writing checks. They're shaping laws, influencing policies, and making sure the system continues to favor them. And who gets left behind? Ordinary Americans who work hard every day, who struggle with rent, with groceries, with medical bills, who can't afford to take time off when they're sick. Now, how did Scott Bessent respond to Bernie's point? Instead of confronting the uncomfortable truth, he deflected. He tried to make it about how these billionaires made their money themselves, or how President Biden once gave the Medal of Freedom to wealthy people. But notice what he didn't do. He didn't dispute Bernie's facts. He didn't deny that wealth and power are dangerously concentrated. And that silence, that evasion, speaks volumes. Because acknowledging the truth would mean admitting that the system is broken, and people like Bessent don't want to touch that. And Bernie didn't stop there. He turned the conversation to wages, reminding us that over 22 million workers in this country earn less than $15 an hour. Think about that. In the richest nation on earth, millions of people working full-time are still living in poverty. Nearly 40 million Americans earn less than $17 an hour. Yet, the federal minimum wage has been frozen at $7.25 since 2009. That's 15 years without an increase. During that time, the cost of living has skyrocketed. Housing is more expensive, food prices are up, healthcare costs continue to crush families. And yet, we're still debating whether a living wage is too much to ask. When Bernie asked Bessent if he supported raising the minimum wage, Bessent punted, saying it should be left to the states. But that answer ignores the reality that leaving it to the states means leaving millions of workers trapped in poverty depending on where they live. It's a way to dodge responsibility. Because a federal minimum wage isn't just about numbers, it's about dignity. It's about saying no American who works full-time should live in poverty. That's the moral baseline. Then Bernie raised another issue that hits home for so many families: credit card interest rates. Over half of Americans opening new credit cards are being hit with interest rates above 24%. That is financial exploitation, plain and simple. It's a form of legalized predatory lending. And here's the kicker: Donald Trump himself once promised to cap interest rates at 10%. Bernie asked Bessent if he supported that idea. And again, Bessent danced around the question, refusing to give a straight answer. And here's the pattern you need to see. Every time Bernie raised a question about protecting ordinary Americans, whether it was oligarchy, wages, or credit card abuse, Bessent refused to commit. He deflected, dodged, and left the door wide open for billionaires and corporations to keep doing what they've always done: take more and give back less. This exchange teaches us something important. Bernie Sanders is not just asking questions, he's exposing the fault lines in our democracy. He's showing us the real divide in this country is not left versus right, Democrat versus Republican. It's the billionaire class versus everyone else. It's concentrated wealth and power versus working people just trying to get by. And when Bessent avoids answering, it's not because the questions aren't clear, it's because the answers would reveal where his loyalties really lie. We have to remember that democracy doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes slowly when people get used to billionaires controlling the economy, when workers are told to settle for starvation wages, when corporations are allowed to legally exploit families with 24% interest rates. The danger of oligarchy is that it makes inequality permanent and turns democracy into a facade. But here's the hopeful part. It doesn't have to be this way. History shows us that when ordinary people organize, speak out, and demand change, the system can bend. We've raised wages before. We've broken up monopolies before. We've won rights and protections before, and we can do it again. So here's the challenge to you. Don't just watch this and shake your head. Share this conversation. Talk to your family, your coworkers, your neighbors about what oligarchy really means and how it affects their lives. Because democracy is only as strong as the people willing to defend it. And right now, defending democracy means demanding that government work for all of us, not just the billionaire class.